Don't merge me.
So hi, everyone. We started the fall work cycle, which runs from September 1st to October 26th, I believe it is. And we are going to be demoing, or Tom will be demoing work done for Sprint 6 with the focus on Comet development work as well as some for Shoreline. So Tom, do you want to go over what we agreed we would try to accomplish in this sprint?
Yeah, so there was one major goal for the for Sprint 6, and that was to get collections MVP working. So you may recall that we have previously demoed submitting new items, which you'll see variously called either objects or works in the UI. Sorry about that continued confusion. And we're able to deposit those objects and then deposit them within each other. So we call that either a component object or a sub object, or I guess component is the word that we're sort of settled on. And in addition to a nested object structure, we want to support collections, where the collections might have implications in terms of, like, I want to display this collection as a group together in a certain context, or I want to be able to attach this kind of branding material to this collection, so that when I display it, I can show it as a more cohesive unit. But the collection itself isn't a first class, like, curatorial object. We won't deposit files directly to a collection and maintain them as representative of the collection, let's say. So this is curatorial groupings of some kind or another, with a not very laden version of what a definition of curatorial. So if that means something very specific to you, please free yourself of that in this context. Okay, so what we hoped to do with collections was to be able to show a deposit and then be able to add objects to collections. And I'm going to go ahead and start that process, and then we'll see how far we got. Okay, so you can see I've got a collection named test collection. There's, all collections tab doesn't work. I shouldn't click things that I haven't tried clicking before the demo. But if I'm a user who has permissions to deposit a collection, then I have this, we can just, like, ignore admin set for a moment. We'll scrub that terminology. Gabriella, I think this is a point where we probably want to discuss how we'll use the collection types functionality that's baked into the underlying Samvera software. But we have a sort of default collection type called a user collection. So we'll make one of those. And I'm going to create a collection. And let's say, let's call this demo collection. Demos are different from tests, don't ask me. This form works a lot like the forms we've seen for the works before, or for the objects before. They both have a certain configurability in terms of what fields will appear here. So we've just added a single required title field in lieu of any like campus specific decisions about what metadata should hang directly on a collection. Okay, so I'll save it. And we got a demo collection. The collection visibility is private by default. We can talk about visibility as we move towards ACLs. And if I add to a collection, no collection here. Similarly, there's some other UIs that I might use to go add an object to a collection. No collections here. So this is as where we got with the collection support. Especially Matt and Vivian have been working on these this gap to adding an object to a collection. I think we're actually super close to in sprint, whatever, are we on 7 now? Is that right? In sprint 7, I think we're going to be able to put a wrap on adding objects to collections and having many objects in collections and be able to show a little bit more of how that works. Okay, so that's where we got on collections. It definitely falls into the category of we did not get as far as we hoped. But that said, it was actually a very productive sprint, and we did a couple of other sort of loose end tie off bits of work in parallel with the collections work. So I want to show those things. The two major things that we worked on that weren't collections are the object download. So I'm going to go ahead and show that now. If I've got an object with a file, you can see the thumbnails still don't display, but we remember that. I now have these actions, and I can click download, and I download the file. Gabriella, I think we have a ticket that we never put in progress that says that I should be able to download it with the original file name, which I'm doing. World.png is what I uploaded. Actually, let's go ahead and back it out and show that from start to finish. I'll go ahead and do a little object deposit so that we can see me upload the file. Okay, so we'll pick one with a distinctive name. Why not? Sample MPEG-4. How about that? That'll be easy to find. There we go. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Save. I'm now sample MPEG-4, and I can save it. It saves just like any file from the browser, so I don't get like any I can't necessarily show you much. I'm not going to play the audio file. But there you go. If I click through on the file, I also have a download button over here. Ideally, I would also have a thumbnail again, but that works the same way. Okay. Since we've just deposited an object, let's go ahead and see it. We can also see that we did some work on workflows this spring. So we had hoped to wrap up workflows just completely in terms of the basic functionality last work cycle, but there were some loose ends to tie off, and there remain a couple of loose ends, but we have something I think exciting to show. So you recall that there's notifications. This says it needs review. It's telling me as an authorized reviewer for this object that it's waiting for review. I'm going to go ahead and click through to it. And you can see now that I have this little yellow toolbar. You might want to accessibility, the contrast, it's a little hard even on my eyes, I think. And if I click here, then I can see the workflow actions that are available to me at this stage for this individual object. I can do, and this is driven by the workflow configuration. So we've specified what actions are available at this stage. Comment only always, when it's available, will be just a leave a comment so that you can have a little bit of a paper trail. So I don't know what kinds of comments we might leave. It's definitely a feature that came up in the requirements gathering, so we're happy to have it. But as you can see, if I try to do the workflow action, something goes wrong. And the same with other review actions. But at least we're able to demo at this point the user interface. This is very much how we expect to deliver the individual object workflow process. It's possible, for instance, that the location of this box in the UI might move, but the basic functionality here of I'm going to see a list of actions that are available to me, and I'm going to be able to choose one of them and leave a comment and push it through. When I click submit, we should see that action take place, which means that the object will move to a different state in the review or in the workflow, and some configured set of code will run to process that object. So that includes doing things like sending the requisite notifications for the next person in the step. But it may also include things like minting a DOI or generating a certain kind of derivative, or I mean, honestly, the sky is the limit in terms of what kinds of things we can hang off the review process. So that's where we are on those three things. Going into the current sprint, so we're now, I guess, on day 3 of the next sprint. We are continuing to focus on the remaining work that we've just seen, where we've just seen application errors. We are working on those things actively during the sprint. Honestly, our momentum is really picking up. I've seen a lot of progress on the collections work in particular in the last 24 hours. So we're hoping that that will be in really good shape during this sprint. Our originally planned stated goal for the sprint was that we're working on batch processing. And indeed, we are making quite a bit of progress on that front as well. So we might be a little bit fragmented in terms of our in terms of our attention this sprint, because we have these loose ends to tie off and we don't want to lose momentum on them. But we're also picking up the work that we did have planned for this sprint in terms of batch ingest processes rapidly. And one of the things that is true about that is that the requirements are still a little bit fuzzy, so we're not 100% sure what we're aiming to deliver in the work cycle for batch, apart from the fact that we want to be able to actually run batch ingest processes for migrated content. So UCSB in particular is hoping to, at the end of the work cycle, shift to local work where we'll ingest ADRL content into Comet. So we're really wanting to have the batch process advanced enough in the next this sprint and the following two that we can do that. And some of that work is already on the way in. So that's exciting. I think that's the Comet demo. I guess I'm supposed to say that there's also some shoreline work going on right now. But the way that shoreline work is structured is that the subject matter experts are working on requirements and on content, and we're still having conversations about whether and when we are running shoreline technical sprints. But for the moment, at least, there aren't technical deliverables from the shoreline sprints because the technical resources that we have are laser focused on Comet, and we're I guess there's not specific deliverables from the shoreline sprint that we want to report out on at this time. Is there anything else that we want to touch on before we wrap it up?
I don't know if Chrissy or others have questions, but I have a question. Just remind me, Tom, with the workflow, what you have here up in the screen, notifications for the workflow, is that something that the user will see in their dashboard? Did you mention that there'd be like a little light in the upper right corner? There you go.
Yeah, so when I get a new notification, I'm a reviewer for all the objects, so I'll remind us we have roles and I'm logged in. Let's show more entries. Maybe, yeah, so I'm the last. Okay, I was just over the edge here. So I'm logged in as this user here, which means that I am a reviewer for the Surfliner default project and the Surfliner default workflow. We should probably clean out the one-step mediated deposit workflow altogether, folks. And again, it's possible to edit the roles if you are an administrator. So I can, the notifications are triggered by my role in the workflow context. And if I deposit a new object, I'm depositing this to the default project in a more broadly used version. You can see also that you can't find collections here for the same reason. But in a more used version of this software, we might have many projects here. But I'm going to deposit to the default project in which I am a reviewer, and the workflow specified for that project puts the object into a review state So when I save the object, I get this little indication here for the notification. Do you see, is that I think that's the one that you were asking about, Gabriella.
Mhm.
And then in my dashboard, I have a notifications page that shows all of my past notifications, at least the ones that I haven't actively cleared out. So I can clean them up if I want and sort them. But regardless of what I do with that notification, this object stays in the workflow state that it's in. So I get notifications, but the actual, the fact that this object is in review remains true until it's been moved from that state. So this review submissions sort of like task page also gives me the list of all the objects that are currently reviewable by me. And I should be able to do, like, yeah. So if I'm looking for objects by title in the review process, then I should be able to find them that way as well. I think one of the most important parts of the batch work that we're looking at is that I think it is sort of identified that this process of I'm going to click on test to show notifications, and then I'm going to click on review, and then I'm going to click approve, and I'm going to put the comment in, that's too intensive for the actual large scale review processes that either campus really wants to employ. So that's why the batch process is such a high priority for us.
I agree.
Obviously, Gabriella, I'm saying that part for the world's benefit. I know that.
Yeah, I was going to say too that good job, good work, team, on getting the download file to work. It's good to see that happening.
Were there any other questions or interjections that people wanted to offer at this point?
I think that's a wrap then.
I think we might call that a sprint review.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Thanks, everyone.